Hi Brook Scholars, I'm Brendan Stoner. I'm Allison Godoff, Sally Godoff's little brother. I guess Mrs. Godoff to you guys. Before she was Mrs. Godoff, she used to be Miss Stoner, actually. And this is a picture of her back here that I actually have in my apartment at school. So it's a little funny, a little awkward, but thought it would be fun to show you guys. And these are all of our family photos. Anyway, enough of that. I am reporting to you from Dartmouth College in Hanover, New Hampshire. I'm a student here. I'm a junior this year, so I'm class of 2014. And I think last time I was in your classroom this December, I remember it being 2025, that's your class, or something in the 20s like that. It seems so crazy far off, but it'll come sooner than you think. I remember seeing 2014 in 1999 and just going, like, that's crazy, and here it is, 2013, so we're almost there. Anyway, I'm an Arabic major at Dartmouth. I love my major, I love the language. It's a lot like Rubik's Cubes, which I'll get to in a sec. It's a puzzling language, and you just have to piece things together all the time, and it's awesome. And my probably second biggest hobby up here would be rowing, and that's what this shirt is, Dartmouth Rowing. We actually have a race this weekend, and I'm heading out tomorrow. Today's Thursday, and tomorrow we head down to New Haven, Connecticut for our race. So that's where I'm headed tomorrow. New Haven is where Yale is, and we're racing Yale. Anyway, so Miss Godoff thought it would be interesting if I sent in a video with my hobby of Rubik's Cubes. You can see I have a whole mound of them here. I actually have quite a few of these weird, quirky hobbies, but this is definitely my quirkiest. And the one that, when I was growing up, I got made fun of by Mrs. Godoff and Mr. Godoff quite a bit for, but they loved it, you know, don't worry about it. Anyway, so we have the 5x5 here. This is a pretty complex one. It's pretty robust. It takes maybe 5-6 minutes to solve. When you're first solving it, it takes forever. But once you really memorize it, there's just so many algorithms, which is like the way you go about solving it. There's so many different ways to solve it that you can get really mixed up. Here's another 5x5. It's a sort of slower one. It's the one that I learned on. You want to learn on slow cubes. And here's the 4x4. It's a little easier than the 5x5, but definitely harder than the 3x3. Here's a 3x3. You can see it's, you know, pretty disjointed and unsolved and all that good stuff. But the reason I love cubes so much and solving them is that no matter how many different ways that they're, you know, disjointed or unsolved or just crazy, you can always solve them, and there's no gimmick, there's no like weirdness. You're always going to be able to solve it. That's so cool. It's so elegant. There's over, I know this is a hard number to grasp for anyone, but there's over 1 quadrillion different permutations of the cube. And basically, I know that number, I mean, it doesn't mean anything to anyone, but that number basically says that when you mix up a cube, the odds are, you know, obviously it's not the case every time, but the odds are that it's never been mixed up that way before. So every time you mix up a cube, you're doing something completely original, and that's pretty neat. But when you solve it, you're getting it to the same place that, you know, hundreds of thousands of people have got it to, maybe millions, I don't know. Anyway, so to the actual cube, which is sort of the whole premise of this video, right? We have this dissolved cube, and I'm just gonna throw it together. And I already did well, I didn't really do much of it before. I'll stand up so you can see it here. And we got the first layer done, which is the white face, and then we move on to the second layer. And now we're on the last layer here, which takes the longest to memorize, but once you memorize it, it's not too much about it. It's pretty simple. And anyone can learn this, honestly. Just, if you guys get a cube, just go to YouTube, or there's quite a few books on it, actually. But honestly, YouTube's the easier way to do it. And you can learn. And this is just the last step here, just putting the pieces where they need to be. And there it is. So there's your cube, like millions of other cubes in the world. And the way it started was probably unlike any other cube that ever existed, which is awesome. Anyway, oh, one last thing that I think is so cool the last two steps, basically, the last step. But when you're putting the last two pieces in, it's so neat because they're only off by just 90 degrees. They just have a little weirdness about them, right? They're just skewed a little bit. But you have to scramble two entire faces to put them where they need to be. And that's really interesting to me. I don't know if I already said this earlier. I think the cube just applies to life in a lot of ways. Like, there's so many problems or whatever, and so many different ways to scramble up the cube or life or whatever, but you can always solve it and always get into the right place. And that's really cool to me. I think it speaks a lot to life. That's awesome. Hopefully that didn't get too deep there. But happy Friday or Monday or whenever you're seeing this. If you're lucky enough to win the cube that Mrs. Godoff told me about earlier, let me know. Hopefully I can show you how to solve it or link you to some YouTube videos for it. And yeah, just let me know. See you around.